It's the WP Minute Plus, your home for long-form discussions with WordPress professionals and industry experts covering our favorite topic, WordPress. Be sure to follow us. Search for WP Minute in your favorite podcast app. Follow this podcast in our 5-minute weekly edition, or head to thewpminute.com/subscribe and join our newsletter. I'm told it's like a warm WordPress blanket that gets delivered to your doorstep every week. Looking for all things WordPress? The WP Minute has you covered. Looking for a great way to support the WP Minute and rock some awesome WordPress swag? Check out our new Thriving t-shirt. You can find it at thewpminute.com/shop. That's thewpminute.com/shop. It's a great way to show your support for the WP Minute and for WordPress and rock some really cool swag for the summertime. 20% of proceeds go to the WordPress Foundation to keep WordPress thriving. Check out the wpminute.com/shop. Hey, Kim, welcome back to the WP Minute.
Thank you for having me, Matt.
You are the leading return guest. You're the all-star.
I'll try to keep doing cool stuff so that stays the case.
The other day, I tweeted out, I forget what day it was, but, prices going up everywhere. Food, water, everything. And streaming services, my God. And I actually want to dissect that in a moment here. Software streaming services. And I was like, man, I don't see anybody really going up in the WordPress world. And even my day job at Gravity Forms, we've held the line really long. I mean, they still have the developer license, and we're rolling out Gravity SMTP. We're wondering, okay, how do we turn this into we want to turn this into a secondary product. This can't just be for free. We can't continue free. And then I saw that you were raising prices. My brother's been a happy customer for many years running thetraderisk.com, his daily finance non-advice newsletter/membership. So check that out if you're interested in that stuff. But you just raised, I got the prices up right now. You have a free plugin, which everyone knows and loves. Your standard plan is now $347 for the year. Plus plan, $597 for the year. And my favorite plan, which I want more plugin developers and theme authors to do, is have an enterprise plan at $5,000 plus. Here's the floor. Mrs. Enterprise customer who's about to throw lawyers and a purchasing department at me. It starts at $5,000 and we scale up depending on how much headache you give me. So all of that is to say, you're raising prices. Fantastic. Insert clap audio and the post edit. Why did this happen? You have a whole sheet of notes, but why did this happen for you?
Yeah, it's 2 years in the making, increasing these prices. The previous increase was the introduction of that standard plan, which was formerly $247. So that saw about a 30% increase. And plus formerly was $347, jumped to $597. So bigger jump, over 50%, I think, if I do the math on that. And it kind of coincides with the philosophy that you should always be experimenting with pricing, always be looking and reevaluating against inflation, against other players in the market, and against where you really want to target and the best buyer for your product. So it kind of was a factor of all of those things, and least of which was our new 3.0 version, where we pulled some of our paid products into the core plugin. So we just made the core product itself even richer, even better to start with. So we can dig into any of those areas, but really in the spirit of experimentation, this is the first phase of some other pricing changes you're going to see from us this year and next year.
The free plugin, I can't remember, the core plugin and 29 free add-ons. Was that always the case, the 29?
The free add-ons keep increasing. We move some out of paid tiers as they become more user-friendly. A lot of what divides what's in core and what's an add-on feature for us is how much support and developer experience and technical know-how you're going to need to use it. So, and 29 is also because we release all of our integration plugins for free as much as we can and as much as possible in the WordPress.org repository. So it increases as we add new integrations. The newest ones are the Google Analytics integration, which has full e-commerce tracking and custom dimensions tracking, so you don't have to use a product like Monster Insights for that. And then also an integration with Akismet to help prevent spam checkouts. So those are two additions to that free tier.
How much of the low cost of plugins and themes is because developers, let's face it, most of the folks who are starting these pieces of software are developers. They happen upon building a business, right? Oh, I built this thing. It's kind of cool. People started using it. Then, oh, you should actually monetize this because that's what everyone says you should do. And then all of a sudden they find themselves 3 years down the road with a business and they're doing taxes now and there's all kinds of craziness running a business. How much of it is the low price because they're afraid to raise the price? They weren't really built for this and they're kind of afraid to say, oh man, should I bring my $29 plugin to $79 now? How much of it is a fear factor, or is there another element to why prices are so low in WordPress?
I think in general, people peg their product against other products that aren't necessarily related or necessarily as feature matched or feature rich. So if we say like, oh, across the board, no one wants to pay more than $59 for a plugin, that's ridiculous. Well, some plugins are one line of code, and some plugins like ours are thousands of lines of code and do a lot more and add a lot more value to the end user. So I think they just look at what they think the top threshold is that they can get someone to buy it, and they stick there. And often they're a small team. So $59 and you get thousands of customers in a year, that's a really good wage for a small team or a single founder with a couple freelancers working for them. So often I think they look at it as what's sustainable for me? What do I need to make? And they stop there and they just don't want to think about it anymore. I also think it takes time to get into a pricing model that will really fit you and fit your product. So early on, you have no clue. You put a tag on it. And if you're not looking at that every couple weeks, every month early on, then you're going to let that big gap go by. And then that fear sets in because you're like, wow, it's been this price for 3 years. How can I possibly raise it double? Like double? People are going to freak out on me. When you really should have been slowly increasing it. So you might be at triple or quadruple that initial price a few years down the road.
Yeah, and I was saying this at the top of the show. I mean, streaming services, this is the last service or business it's the one that really gets me. When I see like Netflix go up another $1, Spotify go up, you don't need it. Right? I would love to know the back end margins of these streaming services, or maybe they're losing money because they're plowing so much money into the content side of it. So we kind of win with that, I guess, as consumers. But that's the one that really drives me nuts. And I think people who are building plugins or themes or a SaaS business that's powering another business, that one makes sense. Raising that price makes sense. If somebody's listening to this, they have their plugin business, what was it that triggered you to say, okay, it's finally time to do it? Like, was it the economy? Was it the inflation? What was it that was like, okay, it's finally time. 3 years since we've done this, let's do it again. What was it that really pushed it over the hump for you?
I think launching 3.0 was like, get that out the door, and then we look at things again. And we did a lot of thinking toward the end of last year over who do we really want to design this product for? What is the direction of this product and who does it fit best? And as much as we're fully open source, we have all of our code on GitHub, everything is technically free to use. The person that we're really designing toward, the person that years from now will be using our product and succeeding best with it, is someone that wants to get paid through their membership site. It's someone that wants to invest in their business and create a serious online membership, an online subscription portal. And those people have money to invest in their business. So even though they're a DIYer, they're looking at this as a long-term relationship with us. And I think by increasing the price, we're getting more of those focused buyers on the product rather than like the person that's just kind of considering it and just going to disappear in a year. A lot of our value is provided in that first year of membership. So when we work with you through support, within 3 months, you should be pretty stable and your site's launched, maybe sooner than that. And then year 2 is just gravy. You're iterating on your business, you're generating your content, and you're growing. But we see a lot of people drop off on year 2, and a lot of it is because their business failed. So I think we're trying to tackle that from the front end to say, if you're ready to invest in your business a larger chunk of money and really commit to it, then I think you're more successful year 2 and we have less churn.
I'm going to just try to set the stage for this question. It's going to be a little bit long, so bear with me. In the age of AI, I think investing in humans is the most important thing somebody can do to really bring out that brand, the human in your brand. Not saying you specifically, Kim, but for anyone listening that has a plugin business or a theme business, whatever. I constantly see especially in the creator side. I made this comparison the other day, and I don't want to put you in any hot water, especially if you have add-ons. But Beehive, the email platform, versus ConvertKit, the email platform. I see Beehive like the typical startup bros, the content that's coming out, the brand that they portray. Startup bros, look how much money we raised. They just raised prices as well off the back of whatever, 30 million or something like that they raise. I forget what it is. And it's this constant like, look at us securing the bag, right? As founders. And you just know that at the end of the day, they're just going to sell to whoever's ready to buy them for, it's going to be their song story of $1 billion or something insane. And congratulations to them. But the content and the connection they put out is, look at us build this platform that you all love, or I see people perceive to love, only to get sold at the end of the day, And that's what blows my mind, is that people should be investing in brands that put that customer first. ConvertKit, I see it much more on the creator side. They just launched like a podcast studio that any of their customers can use in Ohio or something like that. Two different stories, and both you and Jason have been around since the dawn of commercial plugins, and you continue to put that customer first and foremost. Back to your thing about these customers, we lose customers because they go up, maybe they go out of business. This membership thing was too hard. How are you positioning to solve that now that you've got 3.0 out the door? In your notes, you have already working on 4.0 in progress. How are you, because that's a whole other animal, how are you getting that customer first and foremost to say, we want to make you the most successful at your membership? How are you positioning yourself for that?
Yeah, so the big things coming are, we're definitely focused on the front end design. So I think that's going to support people. These people are the first time often they're creating a website and working online. They get very hung up on design and appearance of things when that's misdirected. What they need to be doing is content and delivering value, creating their courses, and doing the things that are going to get people to pay and keep paying them for their membership site. I joke that like ugly websites are successful websites, because a lot of it isn't what it looks like. It's that people are getting the value that you said you were going to provide them to challenge that recurring fee. So we're going to do front end work. It's a long time coming. We often thought, themes would handle this and themes would style forms better and themes would do this, but it's not the case. So we're getting very opinionated. I think you'll see in a lot of what we do, taking a lot of things in-house. We can say we integrate with all these platforms, but in reality, that's another point of failure for people without their own skills and developers. So even things that we thought we would just provide, working with Recapture for abandoned cart recovery, we're going to take things like that in-house because we know that we can control it. We know that we can make it more seamless, and we don't have to rely on the other partner to do some contribution of that code. So I think that'll just make things a lot easier for that DIY creator. We're also looking at how our 4.0 version could function not only as a membership and subscription platform, but kind of as a one-time payment transactional purchase environment. So we look at memberships as a subscription platform, but we're as integrated with gateways as WooCommerce is. So if you think WooCommerce is challenging to work with and to develop for, it's even more challenging for memberships because we have subscriptions built in, but we have the ability to take one-time payments too. So a lot of our users are saying they want to be able to sell recurring memberships, but also sell one-time things. So we're looking at that as a way for people who just don't know how to deliver value on a recurring basis, but they can create one-time info products and still have a community and audience of members on their site. So definitely looking at those two pieces. And then also, because we're focused on helping people get paid, we can focus more on the things that help our members get paid from their members. So looking at, like I said, abandoned cart recovery is one point there, churn and all kinds of things like that. So helping them be more successful by avoiding shooting themselves in the foot with rookie mistakes.
Yeah. I don't envy the position you're in, having to serve so much for a customer, right? Because the seasoned WordPress person, and probably the person listening to this episode, is like, oh, it's just a membership plugin. It's just a membership plugin to you and I, who kind of know this stuff, and we know where it slots in because we have our solutions maybe for front end and forms and all this other stuff. But your customers come to you and they're like, I don't even, what? Like, what's this WordPress thing? They said I should use this. And you have to solve for so much. Theme and front end is huge. And you guys started tackling with your own theme probably like, what, 6-ish years ago, roughly?
Yep, yeah.
And
Memberlight, we developed as
Yep.
a classic theme. It has some hybrid theme features, and now the theme landscape in WordPress is very confusing because of site editing and full site editing, block themes, and all of that. So we're still looking at that as an option, but the page builders themselves, Elementor is still king of our user base, and I think we want to do more for Elementor for sure.
Yeah. So that was going to be my next question. Are you going to get into looking at creating a block theme like full on?
Yeah, we have
or
one kind of in
integration?
progress. We started with Tammy Lister, focused on that individual creator building community. A lot of our users choose to use the Buddy Boss platform because the theme is so elegant and simple, but it also comes with a lot of baggage because not everyone is building a full community site and wants messaging and wants the directory things. So we're trying to feel it out and feel which would be the right theme direction, not replicating Buddy Boss's features too much, but some of the profile pieces that people like that just make them feel like their website is more professional, more professionally created.
Yeah, and this is why you raise prices, right? Because there's just so much under the hood. One of the bullet points you have written down here is being seen as expensive, pricing compared to similar products. You and Lifter LMS have, do I call it strategic partnership or partners?
Jason and I own 50% of the Lifter LMS product, so we're in bed together. It's for real.
It's for real. They're in bed together.
Yeah.
How do you differentiate yourself as you mature PMP? Because I always saw Lifter as the luxe version of LMS. How do you, as you mature and push 3.0 and future versions of PMP, how do you ride alongside what you all are doing with Lifter at the same time?
That's a challenge, and I think it's more interesting for me watching what MemberPress is doing because they're doubling down on courses a ton, and that's a historic thing. People conflate membership and course together, which is confusing, I think, for us as a business because we don't conflate membership and course together. It's really hard for a course creator to justify recurring subscriptions. You can't churn out courses all the time, and once a course is taken, it's hard to justify, why do I keep paying you? Like, I took all your courses. Why am I going to keep subscribing? So it's interesting to me to watch where MemberPress is taking their product, where Paid Memberships Pro is more focused on the member itself, on the association, the community site, which may have an aspect of e-learning, but not as the core delivery. So that's an interesting thing. Lifter's interesting too because they don't have their repos public right now. So they are open source, but a lot of their code is not publicly available on GitHub the way ours is. So I think Jason and my influence has been dump more into the core product. Think about ways that we can become more open source and more open through that. So they are one of the most expensive luxury LMS. And it's, again, they have the very robust free open source plugin, more complete than any others that are out there. I think, I haven't used Sensei much, but it's a shell of what Lifter LMS does.
Sure.
LearnDash has a premium only product. So there are other ones in the repository that are popular LMSs. But I think the most successful e-learning sites, the huge e-learning sites, are using Lifter LMS or LearnDash for their product. I don't know. It's interesting to be in two conversations about pricing with two products.
Yeah, I was going to say,
different decisions. Yeah.
Yeah. Does it influence you at all? Does it come into play, or do you just mention to Chris in an executive meeting and say, hey, here's the direction we're going in. Happy to see where you go, but here's where we're firmly planted in this direction. Does it influence each other at all, or? Very
much, actually. And what's been cool is that we're able to run different experiments in different products and get the results kind of simultaneously. So Lifter right now is running an introductory pricing strategy. So they are doing that 50% off your first year, and not in the way that it's like a FOMO scarcity 4 hours left. It's more introductory pricing. We want you to choose this platform and let price not be a barrier for you in year one. Become successful. We know that in year two, we'll have proven our value even more to you, and you will pay the full price on year two upgrade or renewal. That gets a lot of flack. Carl's, your boss at Rocket Genius, has given that form of pricing a lot of flack, but it's something that's been really working for the Lifter product because they had such a high tier. Their top tier was $1,200. For people to get in at that price was really challenging. And a lot of the add-ons are in that tier are important add-ons, ways to offer advanced quizzing formats. Protecting downloads is coming. Delivering advanced, quizzes, forms, custom fields, playback on video, timing of things. A lot of those are essential to a course, but it was a prohibitively expensive price point. So it's interesting to watch that introductory pricing. It's something we'll probably end up doing with Paid Memberships Pro because it aligns with our mission to help as many people as possible get in, get on board, get set up, and start a business that's paying their salary or more. So they're watching some we're doing some Google Ads work. You connected me with someone in your company to talk through that, which was really helpful. So they're watching our Google paid ads work, and we're just sharing all of that back and forth.
Cool. Yeah, I think as a user, the other day, fine folks at Publish Press released a Kanban board update to their content calendar plugin, and I loved it. It makes sense, and I gave them just a little flack. As an end user, there's a constant upgrade now bar at the top of the thing, and I totally get it. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. But as a user and somebody who kind of thinks about products a lot, that's fine as long as I can dismiss it, because I feel like if I'm using it number one, I feel like it just screams at me all the time, like when I'm using it because of the color pattern. But if I'm putting it on a customer site, it also feels like, oh, you're using this thing that's constantly telling me I have to buy it. So there's a sense of urgency. It's just an inside baseball thing. But from a product perspective, I like something that once I get to a certain point, I can't do the thing I need to do unless I upgrade. And that I don't mind. Because if I'm being successful, like looking at, you have your free core plugin. And then if I look at the standard, I might be looking like, I'm finally at a point where affiliate tracking is useful to me, or membership cards, I need that. Or if I go into the Plus plan, I can do invite-only membership. A lot of people come to the site, in the context of, oh my God, you're so expensive. They look at it and they go, $5.97 a year, I can't afford that. Well, you don't need it yet, right? You just don't need all these things, unless you do. But if you're just starting out, the free one is going to do it for you. And until you get to, okay, I finally need sponsor or group accounts because I'm selling so much that's finally come up. And oh, by the way, if you're selling a group account, $5.97 for the year is probably what you're charging that one seat for, minimally, to get access to this stuff. So I like this. I don't need it until I'm forced to get it. Kind of a bad way of saying it, but I don't need it until my business is succeeding, and then I'll happily upgrade. I think that's the smartest way to get there. No direct question, but just more of a statement of how I use software and how I like it to be developed.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of intention there. If I look at the add-ons that are in standard, I think to myself, what type of site is this? What are they probably charging people, like you said? What are their goals? Where are they going next? Can they afford that? And as long as we can justify all of that in our conversations internally, then we can feel that the price is fair. And the same goes for the Plus plan. As it becomes more expensive, the type of site at that tier is like a large-scale 1,000-member plus association. I hope that they're making way more than $597 a year, that's a fraction and a no-brainer to them. Still, it should be a no-brainer for all that they're getting under one hood. Piecing things together creates a nightmare, locking yourself into a SaaS product that's going to tax you more as you grow. That's how all the email marketing platforms work, right? I was so successful, my email list grew to 1,000 people. I'm paying a lot of money a month to a product like Beehive or ConvertKit at that stage. That's not the case with open source software. So we have to kind of think, who are we also competing against outside of the WordPress space, and how do they price things, and how do they tax people or increase the price as growth happens? And people don't realize that, I think, from day one, but hopefully they, 5 years in, when they're very successful, I hope they think back like, wow, I'm still only paying $597 a year for this thing. And we have sites making millions of dollars a year. We can see in Stripe Connect how successful they are. And they're not paying us any more than the site that just starting.
Let's just take an aside. Let's define, we started to, but we kind of got away from it. Lifter LMS, certainly in the definition, it's an LMS. You want to run a course, a highly specific course, certification, curriculum, lessons, quizzes, all of that stuff. Paid Memberships Pro can be used for memberships, and it's not just, hey, I want to sell a course. Hey, I want to give you access to some protected content. How else are you seeing people use it beyond the internet marketing space? Are other brands or things that we've never heard of using it in a different way?
Well, we see association type sites where it kind of picks among all of those. professional organizations, a bar association, if you could think to that, a trade association, Home Builders of Pennsylvania. They're not our customer, but it is an example of a different type of membership site that's not strictly content driven. We do have some people that are creating paid newsletters through our system, so that is something you can start to do now. I think with ConvertKit, charge for your newsletter, but we often see that that's just one piece of the puzzle, and there's no home for people to come back to. So I think a membership site works best when you have content that you're delivering of different formats and you want to protect it under one roof. Kind of the clearest thing. Go ahead.
Do you have anybody using it as like reselling the membership functionality?
We do. We have a multi-site add-on that lets people sell and create a site as part of checkout. So people have set it up that way that it's almost like a WordPress maintenance or hosted managed WordPress under one hood. So people could buy and purchase their site at checkout, automatically gets created for them. That's one way. We do have an affiliate program ourselves. We like better when the customer is the buyer of their own license. So we haven't done things like white labeling and stuff like that, but it's been talked about.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's important to clarify that, the two different like use cases and the paths that one can go down and the reasons why, you should use it. I think Lifter has, I was just looking the other day, like something, I don't know, I think, was it like video chapters or something like that? So if you're embedding videos, I think there's an add-on to like enhance like video stuff. And that's the kind of thing that I'm like, okay, this is like full blown, like you're teaching a course, you need all of that stuff. That's Lifter. And then if you need the membership for content, for recurring payments, you don't need to be teaching somebody this in-depth course. That's Paid Memberships Pro, at least in my head.
I mean, you could use the two together. We have like a streamlined compatibility now that was something we developed. So people use us alongside LearnDash. People use us alongside Lifter LMS. It's tough. Choosing your software mix is tough. It'll always be a problem with WordPress when it's the DIY person searching the repository, reading top 10 plugins for X lists and getting really confused. We often see people like install 2 membership plugins when you don't need to. Like there's conflicts that people create because it's hard to identify where one plugin's functionality ends and another begins. And then we see plugins kind of all calling themselves a membership plugin. An example of that was the WP User Avatar that rebranded to Profile Press and now is a membership plugin. And it was a largely used avatar only plugin. We recommended it. And then all of a sudden they were like, we want to be a membership plugin. So we're going to call ourselves Profile Press and add some features in. And it was just a strange experience, but we're still seeing it happen.
Yeah. That another great segue into another section we can talk about: consolidation, competition in the market. We talked about, or you mentioned Sensei from Automatic, an Automatic product. What's your thoughts? What's your feelings on competition in the space? We just said it's hard to pick the stack. It can get confusing for an end user. There's a lot of choices. At the same time, probably not a lot of competition when you look at the real world, when you zoom out and you look at SaaS marketplace or software at large. What's your thoughts on competition? What's your thoughts on competition from the mothership? How do you think about it now versus maybe when, 10 years ago when the market was like super hot and everyone was launching something every other day? Do you have a shift? Do you feel much more grounded these days? Do you feel much more confident in where your position is?
I think I don't. I think it's a challenge to understand where Automatic is going, where, this whole move toward agency stuff is curious. Product like Sensei had the potential to grow into something more, and it feels like something that gets started and then kind of punted to be looked at later, which is interesting. Then the whole, if you got me onto the WordPress.com, WordPress.org plugins listings thing, I think that has created confusion for users. We saw that conversation about search ranking and seeing .com results come up. They're still coming up for me before .org rankings, which is, I don't know, it's going to keep happening. So I guess we're starting to look outside of WordPress and the competition within WordPress and look, like you said, look outside to the grander scale of things. I don't know. It would be nice when you look at a product like WooCommerce, it was just right time for it to become the e-commerce platform for WordPress. And now there is no one membership plugin for WordPress. And who can make that decision? who can make that call. It's really a challenge. There are enough users for all of us to go around. I don't think a membership plugin will ever reach the scale of a WooCommerce itself.
Yeah. There's an interesting thing happening in the podcasting world because I follow that still really closely for obvious reasons, but I also really, just like I love open source for WordPress, I love open source for podcasting. I think the two are very important for humanity. But Spotify, they acquired Anchor many, many years ago, and then they rolled that into what they called Spotify for Podcasters, where you could go and record your podcast just like you could with Anchor with Spotify, and they just killed that off. So now the industry is like, because that was like the automatic solution, right? That might have been like the Sensei in the LMS world. Like, oh yeah, it helps you create a membership, but it's nowhere near what you're going to do with Paid Memberships Pro or Lifter LMS, and certainly nowhere near if you combine the two. So it was always largely looked at like, yeah, I did this thing. 60% of like what other podcast hosting companies could do. And then you have all the different fragmentation of podcast hosting companies, largely just doing RSS feeds, but they all have like their little accessory features that go alongside of it, so the experience is different. But now the industry is like, who the hell's going to take over like the the free version of podcasting? Because that was, as much as everybody railed against Spotify and what they were doing with podcasting and trying to own podcasting, that was also a huge on-ramp for like amateur podcasters to be like, okay, this thing's free and I can record here. And that got people into the space, sort of like what Automatic should do, right? It'd be like, oh yeah, we'll help you get in. And then, by the way, here's Paid Memberships Pro when you want to go up, right? When you want to move up. So now the podcast world is in a bit of like, what is going to happen now that the free thing is gone that we all kind of needed, and I see it with Automatic, with the agency stuff. Yes. One of those things too, where I was like, for years, why doesn't Automatic and WordPress work more with us, right? We're the ones building it, but now that they have that suite of plugins, you can probably assume that if they're walking into an agency, they're going to be like WooCommerce, Lifter, like these are the Jetpack. These are the things Sensei, I said Lifter, Sensei, Jetpack. These are the things you're going to use. And now that becomes, all right, well, that's a little scary, right? For us indies that are out there.
It's the same with
mothership.
The automotive products,
right.
The incest of recommending each one to each other. It's like,
can that be the
it's
clip?
Okay, I get it. I totally get it, and Stellar and the Liquid Web brands, like I totally get it. It's just, it's where we are now. And I think it took me a while to wake up and see it. And now that I do, I think my relationship to WordPress itself is changing. And I'm like, now we're business people. We're not open source community people hanging out in the hallway, and that's okay. We had to get here. It's an evolution and may swing back. We don't know. I don't know.
So how does that change your perspective? This recent article from Make, or blog post from the Make team, talking about the decline in WordPress events, fewer and fewer unique users. How do you see yourself connecting with the community that, like you said, we used to all just be in the hallway together hanging out, but now things are getting a little bit more serious. Again, consolidation, maybe less competition. So now we all have to start getting a little bit more serious with this stuff. How does that change your perspective? Like, do you feel different going to those events? Do you think like now you kind of step outside the WordPress world and go to like other events or do other marketing initiatives that aren't traditional to WordPress without giving away the secret sauce?
I think that would be, we are looking at other events to attend and sponsor. We're looking outside of sponsoring WordPress events themselves and looking at, other places where people that use our product are hanging out. You joke a lot about the size of the WordPress news audience, and it's a finite group of people that care and want to listen to and consume what you're doing. I think the same is true within the community. If they don't know about Paid Memberships Pro yet, that's okay. I don't think that they're out there building membership plugins or building membership sites. So does it make sense for us to always be a part of this anymore? I don't know. I think I'm getting to a place where maybe I bring a tinge of bitterness that the newer entrants to the WordPress community don't need to hear or be a part of. And there is a youth in WordPress. There is a growing number of people. I'm in my 40s. There's people in their 20s that show their enthusiasm in more ways than I can today provide. When I look at international camps and, in Asia, the vibrant communities there, I think it's migrated. We used to have this young WordPress community in the United States. I don't think we're here anymore. I think we're more international, and that's good. That's like another evolution that I'm happy to see happening. And it doesn't necessarily include me or disclude me. I can participate it at will when I want, and I can step back too and let the new generation not be tainted by my bitterness, right?
At the beginning of the year, I speculated that we would see a new entrant into the WordPress community, and those that are non-developers. And just so happened, this young kid named Mark Zemansky fell into the WP Minute Slack, and he's a guy that started in WordPress with Elementor, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. He live streams a lot. He co-hosts with me. We'll be live streaming, actually, I think tomorrow or the next day. And he's a guy who came in never cracking open a code editor. Didn't have to, edit functions PHP like you and I had to do, or probably still have to do on some of our sites. Never even saw that. And just came in through Elementor. Now he's using Bricks. And I know there's a lot of fan favorites in the page builder world, but there's like this reality that, just like when our parents or grandparents used to say, like, I used to walk to school, like, well, we don't need to walk to school anymore, right? And there's these users that are like, I don't need to write code. I don't want to. Like, I want to enjoy using WordPress. Just let me enjoy using WordPress. Isn't that half the battle? Yes. So just let me use my Elementor or my Bricks or my Beaver Builder, whatever, and let me just do my thing without having to do it the hard way. And I think that's a reality. That's what Gutenberg and Site Editor, as much as we're pulling our hair out about it at some levels, that's what that's getting to in a slow, tirelessly aggravating pace. But that's what people want, man. And we just have to embrace it and work with it, because I think, like you said before, when you see Elementor, just by the numbers, everyone's using it, that's what the market wants. So I'm going to support it. I'm sorry. It's business, and this is how we're going to work. So again, 100%, I agree with you. There's this whole new wave of people coming in that are experiencing WordPress for the first time, and they're not doing it like you and I used to do it. But so what? We can help them, right? And we can share with them like the most positive side of it, which is the open source side of it, to a degree.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of page builders, Chris Badgett's wife built a website, and from start used the site editor, used the block editor, and Chris observed her having zero friction building her website, and it looks great, and it does what she wants, and she's capable of editing it, and she's not afraid. And that's the experience that we're not having, because we've had to learn something new, and change is hard. And, it happened without our input, all of these things that we, as I say, we, like you and I, and people who have been in WordPress for 15, 18 years are feeling about the direction. It's not what's the end user like Mark or Sam are experiencing. So we have to just accept that that's okay. Yeah.
DHH from Basecamp, or 37 Signals, I forget what they call themselves now. He put out a pretty good piece, whether you like the guy or not, but he put out a good thing, a good piece about open source, and pretty much says, like, it's open source. It doesn't mean that you have a say in absolutely everything or the complete direction. And I agree with that. And I'm still wrestling, because I have this debate with Mark all the time. I'm still wrestling with how to portray this without sounding too commercial. That's not even the right word, but it's almost like I love WordPress because it's open source, and I love open source because we can have a say in it. Doesn't mean that will get accepted. So on one hand, I love the fact that I can have a say in it. The other hand, I know that I'm not going to obviously get everything that I'm asking for. But at the same time, I'm not ultra worried about like the automatic mothership thing, because at the same time, like, I'm reaping the benefits from open source as well. So it's almost like respect open source, take from open source, and give back to open source. I'm like at this like trifecta thing right now where like you can still reap the benefits from it. It's okay, but as long as you respect it and give back at some capacity, and then take your stuff away from it, which a lot of us do. Like we're selling websites, we're selling plugins, we are gaining from it. But we just can't have everything. I don't know. At the end of the day, it's this weird thing that we're at.
I think to peace with that is necessary.
Yeah.
And something I think Jason struggles with when he feels like sensitive about it and he gets emotional about it, and it's good, he should. And in our kitchen we have, conversations that are hard, and it's somewhat sad and it's interesting, and he'll want to go public with things and post things on Twitter, and I'm very much like, no. I think it was Eric who posted recently on the WP Minute site, like that this like clickbait and this like needing to be outraged, like it just has to end from the bigger voices in the WordPress space, the negative criticism. Like, let's just like tone it down a little, accept where things are in the direction they're going, or put a stake in line in the sand and go change something. Like, you can hook into WordPress in so many ways. Most of what you're upset about can probably be fixed with your own custom code, and if enough people come along board with you, then maybe it becomes part of core eventually. Like that's what you said. That's the beauty of it. Take what you want from it, build off of it. It's yours to do that with. Sitting around feeling sad and sour grapes is not where you should be. That's a sick way to live.
Yeah, and it's hard because product space is super opinionated, right? And then you mix in social media, and it's like we're all building products to some degree. Like we're all branding, marketing, building a product. So it's very easy for, I say a lot of us, but 100-ish people who actually like jump in and say things, on Twitter. It's very easy for us, to do that because we are very opinionated. But I think it's such a monolithic piece of software and community now that it would really take something massive in order for people to really revolt, right? People are revolting about, how the Gutenberg block sidebar hides the typography unless you expand it. Like, why isn't that just open all the time, right? But we're not going to win those arguments, and that's not the thing that you're going to just like die on a hill for. Eventually it's going to get fixed. it will, so just like let's all just move on. And I think it would take something massive. It would have to be something massive, and that would be the safeguards of open source at that point. I don't know what that massive thing is. I have no idea. It would have to be like OpenAI, like an OpenAI integration into core WordPress, where you'd be like, wait a minute, what the hell is this? I don't want this in my WordPress, or it'd have to be something massive to really have people stand up and revolt or change things in WordPress. So the little stuff.
From the hosts and the products, the users, every angle has people championing and pushing it forward, not just the project itself. So yeah, I agree with you.
Did you have anybody complain about price increase when you raised it?
One person emailed me. Well, this is the graceful way to increase prices. Here you go. The 30-second pitch. We email people in advance. We let them know the date that it's happening. We honor legacy prices. We sometimes run a sale, but this time we didn't, to get people in as if they can at the current price before the prices go up. And if people ask later, we usually give them the old price. So those are just like the most graceful way to go to sleep at night without feeling like an ass. So one person emailed and said, "You highly overestimate the value of your product." One person. And I was like, I think we highly underestimate it. I'm thinking we didn't write them back. We just let their email go into the trash, So no, not so far. Yeah. There's always a lull after a price increase. And a lot of that is just the way people buy and way people make software decisions. So sure, there's people that come to the site, see the price, check out, immediately go. A lot of people begin at the free level. 10% of them upgrade to a paid plan. I think it's about 50-50 whether people buy just outright or sign up for the free first. Those are weird numbers that don't make sense in the way that I told them. But there is always a lull because a lot of people are making these decisions slowly. They might have other stakeholders involved that they're getting on board. So if 2 weeks ago they went to the pricing page and they were one price and they come back to buy, it's different. They begin those conversations. They begin that mental wrestling again. So there's always a lull right after. It's about a week long. We're not even a week out. We're almost at a week from it, having done it. So we'll see long term if we stay at this price and how long we stay here, but no major pushback, I'll say. Just the fear and uncertainty that me and Jason have after doing it.
Yeah. Do you have you both identified a seasonality to the business? I mean, you guys have been at it for a while. I don't know if you've seen a significant pattern, holidays, New Year, summertime.
It gets quiet after Black Friday, which is a natural time. May is usually slow. We've insulated ourselves from seasonality by running seasonal sales, which you have some articles on our site about. But we're stopping all sales until Black Friday unless things go terribly wrong. But we have enough recurring revenue to keep the cash flow fine. But we would use those sales to perk up quiet months that we saw in the year previous. So it's pretty regular now, except for that outsized November. I don't know. I guess when you're an serve an international audience, seasonality isn't as big of a thing. Do you see it at your company? Are you into the numbers? Do they let you see that stuff?
No, I don't see it. Okay. Guy with microphone does not get access to reports. But no, I mean, I know about, I've only been there just over a year, but obviously Black Friday is massive. That I know. But I'm not privy to any of the sales logs or anything like that. He would show me if I asked, but I don't want to know. I don't want to slip up. If I ever get captured by some other form company, I don't want to be the guy that knows any information. Yeah. You have this bullet point on the end of your document. By the way, if you don't mind, I'll copy and paste this into the show notes because I think there's a lot of other great takeaways here. But planning ahead for introductory pricing, let's break this down. Avoid the always on sale look, which I think you just mentioned. Avoid the always on sale look for false scarcity. Is that something that you tried? And that's basically like first year, 97, and then next year is 197. Customers like, what the hell just happened? I thought it was 97. Is that your take on false scarcity?
Yeah, the false scarcity to me is the countdown timers.
Oh, okay. Got
yeah.
It.
Like creating the FOMO and creating the need to buy now that we know isn't real, but it works. And, we see it slapped on a lot of products that get acquired and it must be working, right? But we are going to try an introductory pricing at some point. That's what Lifter's doing right now. We used to be more expensive the first year and cheaper the second, and we went to the same price every year as well as your first year. So now we're going to try the inverse, less your first year, more in the second. And that's just that alignment to letting people get in who need it and can't yet afford it, who are just starting out. And that's what our mission is aimed at. So the people that want to grow, and in year 2, they should have proven it, and they should be grown enough to justify the full price renewal of the product. So it'll be curious to try it. It's an experiment we haven't done, and why not try them all?
And that's where you have step 1, get people started for free, which is obviously your free plugin. Step 2, make it as inexpensive as possible for people to get support plus additional add-ons and aimed at growth. And you feel like where you're at now with that pricing, you've accomplished step 2. And then step 3, charge them full price once they have proven their model. And is that the $597 a year plan? Or are you just saying, oh, look, now that they're here, we're just going to charge them full price? So are you going to change the price again?
Yeah, I don't think we're doing it until January next year is where we're thinking. We'll get through one full year of these full price prices. And then in January of next year, consider first year 170, what is it, 172.50 or something? I don't know, doing the math. Knocking them half price first year and then bump up. Yeah, we'll try it. We'll see. There's lots of ways. I mean, we have never done...
For the listener, you can't see Kim, but she's actively thinking about it.
I know. I'm like, it's good. It's always on our minds to look at it again, to reevaluate it. A lot of places do like an extensions model and an add-ons model. It's not one we've considered trying. But who knows? We are going to start selling like add-on license keys, which we haven't in the past offered. We've just been like, buy another plan.
Because Chris
under
does
a different
that.
Email.
Right? Chris does that. You can get, and he has, does he have, obviously he has success with it.
He does the a la carte or bundled options. He also does lifetime deals. That's something we haven't done, but I think for Black Friday, we're going to consider doing one. Mm-hmm. It'll be our first time trying it. I don't know. We don't know. You never know until you try it, and then you know better for what you can try again in the future.
Last question. I want to talk about this enterprise plan. Talk to me about that. How did you come about to the 5,000 plus price tag? Do you get a lot of enterprise inquiries? Do you ever move anyone into enterprise? You say, hey, look, you're on this plus plan. You're doing this thing. Let's just move over to enterprise. How does that look to you? Because that could be a a massive driver for the business revenue-wise.
Yeah, it's mostly a way to open conversations, and it largely turns out that they aren't an enterprise customer. Largely, they're agencies speculating on whether they take Paid Memberships Pro as the membership plugin they only use and install. And in those cases, it makes more sense for them to either be an affiliate or to pass on a discount and let their customers sign up directly. It's really hairy when developers own the license for people's sites, unless they have had like established long-term business together. It's hard for me to recommend that. As interesting as that is, it does serve as a decoy price and maybe becomes a lifetime deal in time. But it exists to say, like, yes, we can be used on large-scale associations. You know, the enlisted association of the National Guard uses Paid Memberships Pro across all of its member states. They don't pay us $5,000. They pay one of our developer partners to maintain their websites and their things, and they pay for a subscription for their license keys individually. So it really is a conversation to say, what are you doing with Paid Memberships Pro? Oh, you're really an agency. Should people be buying their own licenses? Should you just start buying a la carte licenses? And what would that look like? I can't talk about it yet, but there is a predominant, well-known WordPress agency that's going to use Paid Memberships Pro and was otherwise considering building in-house. And they were like, are we an agency? I was like, are you going to support this customer? Yes. They just need a license and let them use it. So I love having those conversations because it's where we learn about the really cool implementations of our product.
Yeah, I mean, and again, for those listening and hearing enterprise 5,000 plus, like if you're a plugin developer, I can absolutely tell you that is the bare minimum price for, as somebody who worked at Pagely before they were purchased by GoDaddy and got a lot of experience. I mean, I got some experience in enterprise at my agency, but certainly at Pagely, that was all I was selling into was the enterprise. That's why our minimum plan was $5,000 a year, because every single purchase was, marketing person at some company. Oh yeah, love it. Want to buy it. Okay. How much is it? And you're just like talking to them and they're like, okay, yep. Okay. Sounds great. And then they're like, we'll buy it. I'll send another email like next week or whatever. And then that email next week is the legal team. It's the IT team that wants you to pass some kind of like security sanity check, and you're filling out Excel spreadsheets and you're like, what the hell is this? And I think that every plugin that can touch something in enterprise should have this reserved enterprise price. Even if you're not advertising it, you just have it because you're not going to want to go through all this other stuff. And you actually might lose some, like if you find it interesting, you might lose business if you don't have that kind of solution advertised, because sometimes even at $597 a year, an enterprise is just like, they find that in the loose change drawer. Like that's nothing, right? $597, they won't even work with you, right? They need something bigger.
Outside of the WordPress space, the products we compete with are 100,000 plus a year.
Oh, yeah, easy.
Hosted software solutions, and people dislike them and migrate to us because they're just outdated dinosaur products, and they don't work the way that they need, and they're not extendable. But without a price like that on the table, it's not obvious that this product is for them. Yeah. When they see $597 DIY, get it, do it yourself, they're like, oh, you couldn't possibly manage my 1,000-member organization, Chamber of Commerce. Like, yes, we can. Our site has 160,000 members. We can manage your 1,000-member Chamber of Commerce. It's just, it's hard for people to see that an open source product and something WordPress on a blogging platform could match something that would be in those 6 figures plus.
I said last question, but I want to hit this one last bullet point on your list. You have Jason's sabbatical, and Kim plus David's brutal push for beta release. So I can't let you go without explaining Jason out sipping cocktails while you and David are brutally pushing for a beta release.
Yeah. So I'm the get shit done person in our team, and Jason gets a lot of stuff started, and he thinks about things, and he thinks about new things, and he starts things, and I'm just like, why isn't this out? Why isn't this launched? Clean this up, fix this, get this done. So it was an interesting time. Jason went on sabbatical at mid-November, early November through the end of 2023. He actually was not sipping cocktails maybe some nights, but he just took his time to read books and heal. I think he was really getting burned out at the end of 2023. And we had been developing 3.0 for over 3 years. The first commit was like June 2021 or something. It was like, no, It had to have been earlier than that. I don't know. I can get you the real date. And I took that time to work with our lead developer and just say, like, what's in, what's out, what do we have to get done? And we just, by the end of, even before Jason's sabbatical, mid-December, we had a working beta version of 3.0 to share with our community of people. And it was just really fast decision making, really fast code review between David and I. I would do a PR, he would approve it and merge it within minutes. I would say, it's up, it's ready to go. And we just kind of got really hyperactive on it, and we got a beta release out the door. So that was a fun time for me to work that closely with David, because I didn't really in my day-to-day. So I just moved aside all my marketing tasks and focused on my development tasks in the team. So it was good. It was like, Jason's not here, we can make the decisions. And that came up a lot. But when he came back, he set everything in right, that it would have been in the way that he wanted to. But it was grateful that he didn't have to go through that period with us, I think.
Yeah. For sure. PaidMembershipsPro.com. You can check out the new pricing live. Don't complain about it. It's there. It's $347 for the year. And look, like I said, so many of us can use it for free. It's a fantastic plugin. Been in business now
13 years.
13
July
years.
5th, I think, is 13-year birthday. Yeah.
Wow.
We're
That's
close.
fantastic. Kudos to you and the team for surviving this long. It's your praises are not sung enough in the WordPress world for meeting the decade mark alone is something that I think we should all celebrate more across the community. PaidMembershipsPro.com. Kim Coleman, where else can they go to say thanks? Do you have any other socials that you want them to go to?
I always forget what my X account is. Coleman K83. I don't know. I'm on it less and less lately. Election year's got to tune that thing out. So,
you're gonna
just come to
stay
PaidMembershipsPro.com.
Yeah.
Complain about the price. Go ahead. I don't care.
Yeah. Send all complaints. PaidMembershipsPro.com. Thanks, Kim. Thanks for hanging out today.
You got it.
That's it for today's episode. Get the weekly newsletter at thewpminute.com/subscribe. Want to support the show and join a Slack group filled with WordPress professionals like you? Talk about the news, share your WordPress business content, and network with others. Head to thewpminute.com/support and get access to our group. Support the show for as little as $5 or more if you feel we provided more value. Thanks to our pillar sponsors, Pressable, Bluehost, and OmniSend. Thanks to our Foundation Plus sponsors, WP World, Image SEO, and Hostinger. Thanks to all of our annual supporting members and you, the listener. Without your support, the WP Minute wouldn't be possible. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.